One thing I've come to realize and shared a lot is real estate's a people business. And you really can take that to the next level is who's your circle, right? Who are the people you interact with? Because again, real estate investing is not easy. It's never been easy. It won't ever be easy. But if you have a support network, people doing the same things, it feels so much better when someone else, Mark, Dion in this case, they've been in the battles, they've had the evictions, they've written an offer and didn't get the deal. They've had somebody lie to them, they've had somebody steal, whatever it is. Being in the right community is so important. Alrighty, folks, we have a treat for you. We not only have Dion, but we have Mark, the financial firefighter. How you doing, Mark?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you for being here. Always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for having one rental at a time over your left shoulder. I always appreciate it when I see your videos. I'm like, there's my guy. So I appreciate you. We're going to start with you. There's the question I have that I was on a podcast, Invest with Her, Fort Lauderdale. Shout out that team. Thank you for that opportunity. But we had a long conversation about mistakes new investors make. So I know you've been helping people get started. I know you've helped people in Hawaii. I know you were at our event in Pennsylvania, lots of stuff. So when you think about mistakes new investors make, what's the first thing that comes to mind?
My first thing is thinking that it's easy. You see a lot of people on social media talking about how many doors they have or where they're at, and it's just you kind of get this vision that it's an easy process. And even for myself, the first few that I got kind of tricked me. And Dion kind of likes to remind everyone about what I've done, and it's fine because I want people to learn from it. But the first few got me, and I thought it was going to be an easy cakewalk, and yeah, then it snuck up on me, and that was one of the biggest mistakes. And for me, not having proper reserves. So those would be the kind of things I'd start off with.
Very cool. Love those. Love those. Dan, what do you got for your first one?
So the first one is one that I point out often when I talk about the financial firefighter, and I think because I think it's great. He's in an expensive market. He's in Hawaii, right? I'm like, how many people? How many? I want to say millions, but I don't know how many people are in Hawaii. The vast majority of people in Hawaii probably think they can't invest because they're in such a high cost of living area.
Mm-hmm.
And so what did Mark do? He's like, well, I find a market where it does make sense. And then he scaled too quick.
Yeah,
he emptied out his retirement accounts, got 14 rentals in 2 years. So scaling too fast or the goal of scaling too fast is a mistake that a lot of investors make. And we've talked about this before. I liked the idea of only acquiring one rental every 2 years. I thought that gives me plenty of time to stabilize, learn how to work with tenants, how to find and maintain and keep a lease, how to maintain the property without having, the most I can go through is one eviction at a time. Right. Versus I think Mark had 2 or 3 and some turnovers and some rehabs all going at winter. And one of his things when, like me, he had to pull his hair out to deal with that. So I would say if you're a brand new investor, it is okay. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah, the first one I always go to is rule number one is focus. Man, there's so many new investors that come to me and I ask them what they're looking for and they have no idea. If you have no idea, not only like no idea market, but no idea buying vehicle. Oh, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Real estate is undoubtedly a path to wealth for most people, but you got to get good at one thing, right? You've got to get good at one thing. And again, if you can niche down like riches in the niches, if you can niche down to what I call a buy box, the world unlocks. It's that simple. But man, new investors, it's like chasing cats. They're just like all over the place. That's the biggest first mistake I got. Mark, what do you got for number 2?
Mine is just this kind of the circle that you're in, and you kind of get caught in this kind of path of doing what everyone else around you is doing. And like Dion mentioned, Hawaii is a expensive market, and I see a lot of people that kind of I don't know if giving up is the right way to put it, but they just see like the median single family home being $1 million, and it's like I'm never going to be able to get that down payment. So it's either they buy the new Tacoma that comes out, or they put a lift kit on it, and that's kind of how their life progresses, right? They're buying the fancy car, the new toy, and they just kind of given up that they're ever going to be on that home ownership kind of platform. So that'll be my next one.
I like it. Dion, number 2.
And so this is one I'm not sure I put in one of these videos yet, because we've done a few of, what are common mistakes that people do. This is a big one when you're a new investor. New investors don't think they're real investors. And
Ooh,
this is a mistake I kind of did in the beginning. I thought, who can trust a stranger? Right? I'm not an investor yet. Those big apartment complexes, they've got an office staff who screen people, and I better rent to a friend. And if I'm going to rent to a friend, since I'm not a real investor, why would I need a lease? I'll just shake the guy's hand. I didn't know to do things like, actually have a goal for my reserves. Set up landlord accounts with utilities so that if the tenant moves out, it automatically goes back into my name. Like, what are things that what we would call a real investor do from day one? And you have a portfolio as a new investor before you've made an offer on a rental property. What are you saving? What are you doing to increase your income? What are you doing to reduce your expenses? All of those are steps that real investors make, and you're making them before you get to the point where you buy a stock, choose a business to grow, or start making those, not even get one accepted and own a rental. You are an investor long before you do that.
yeah, I like that. Um, I'll go to one that I've made personally, and that is I tried to do it all myself. One of the things I've come to realize and shared a lot is real estate's a people business. And you really can take that to the next level is who's your circle, right? Who are the people you interact with? Because again, real estate investing is not easy. It's never been easy. It won't ever be easy. But if you have a support network, people doing the same things, it feels so much better when someone else, Mark, Dion in this case, they've been in the battles, they've had the evictions, they've written an offer and didn't get the deal. They've had somebody lie to them, they've had somebody steal, whatever it is. Being in the right community is so important. The first 5 years of my career, I give myself an excuse of I was traveling, I was all over the world. BS. I could have been networking and emails and phone calls and texting and building out my network. I didn't have to do it on my own. Now, I got through it, but I don't think most people could. I think most people, if you stuck around the same network, you're going to bounce out. And I think you have to watch your network on purpose. You got to get around people that are doing the same things, maybe a couple people ahead of you, a couple people behind you, because there's something to be said for people helping you pull up and then you helping somebody behind you as well. Man, watch your network. And the biggest thing I tell people is you're going to have to fire a couple of your friends. Some of your friends just got to go away because you don't need to carry their weight, right? It's just that bad. So Mark, we'll go around one more time. What's number 3 for you?
For me, I think I see a lot of people trying to find the best market out there. Like they're searching and they're looking at 5 different markets and they're like, I want to be in this one because so and so's in this one, or I want to be in that one because so and so. And they're just looking for these absolute perfect markets. And you guys always touch on it. Like there's a market that someone is making money in that specific market. And you just got to find what works for you. And like I believe yourself, you didn't want to fly. So it had to be within driving distance. And that's what worked for you. And you knew what the area average was, and you were looking for better than that, but you just understood that market. And I think that's the thing that holds a lot of people back, is they're just trying to find this absolutely best market that hits every category, right? Like taxes, rent rate and whatnot, so population growth, and they're just trying to search for this perfect one, and that kind of just holds people back.
That is such a good one. And you are so right. How many people have been looking for the perfect market for more than a year when we have Millennial Mike going to Gary, Indiana, which is on nobody's top list? And you can make it work, right? I really do. And I think Bigger Pockets is somewhat to blame for this when they have this kind of core 4. It's not the core 4, it's the 5th one. You got to have trusted boots on the ground. You got to have some relationships. You got to have a way to protect yourself for people that you're not paying. So I love that one. That's a great one. Dion, what's your final one?
This is one that's hard to understand sometimes when you're a brand new investor, because these are going to be people you interact with. But a lot of new investors pick the wrong mentors.
Mm.
They go to their agent and they go to their lender and they say, you work in the industry I'm trying to get into, so you have knowledge I need. Your lender is trying to sell loan products and your agent is trying to close deals. And even if they have the best intentions, this is something I learned from So I only did 6 years in the military, but I spent 10 years working at 13 years working at a CDL school where I did presentations on base. And there's one thing that a service member, that an active duty military person can't get from their chain of command. So the person in the military can go to their chain of command and say, what's it like to go downrange? What is a combat zone like? What's it like to come back? What's it like to be married while we're in the military? What's it like to get divorced while we're in the military? All these things that your chain of command, your peers can help you with. They can't tell you what it's like to get out. So if you're talking with a lender or an agent who is still a lender or an agent, are they financially free? Did they do it with rentals? Are they doing what you want to do? Or are they working in an industry where, yeah, I'm going to hire a roofer to do the roof on a place. I'm not going to go up there and do it. I want to hire them for their expertise. I hire an agent for their expertise, not for their mentorship on how to acquire rentals. Even my first agent that I was working with, he is now retired with 30 rentals, would have steered me into bankruptcy because he had never invested in my asset class in the way that I was going to, because I was getting mortgages and he had done all cash, right? He worked in a shop for decades, and the best deals that walked through the door, he cherry picked that he could buy all cash, and he had those relations. I didn't have any of that. So he had me making offers on duplexes because he'd never used a mortgage. He didn't know what he knew what cap rate was, didn't apply to residential. Cash flow would have been negative, yield would have been negative. And luckily, I didn't get those first few offers. And your lender, well, they can give you great advice. Do they even own rentals? Do they look at it through the lens of what are your other expenses outside of the mortgage? They're going to talk APR, they're going to talk payments, they're going to talk amortization, they're going to talk all of the options you have in lending, which you need that information, but not when it comes to, is this a good rental property to buy? Is this a market I should invest in? Is this a partnership I should forge? You need to find people who've done what you want to do, get around them as much as possible, right? A lot of people say you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, which is absolutely accurate. You need to monitor your network. You become the average of the 5 channels you spend the most time listening to.
Amen. Yeah, especially in social media. If you're watching any social media and you're left scared, nervous, envious, anything but motivated, you need to block those channels. I totally agree with that. And just so you guys know, we're going to go to Mark's future land question next. If you each switched portfolios, what would your next move be next? Mark, we're going to go to you as well, given your portfolio. So just so you guys know that that's what's coming next. But my third and final one is only looking for deals when you have money. That's not how it works. If you're only looking for deals when you have money, you're going to miss the market. You're going to have to start over. Once you've invested the time to learn a market, and let's just say you bought a great deal and you're in, stabilization mode or whatever. If you stop looking at your market for a couple of weeks, you're going to have to start over. Never let that intellectual capital, that repetition disappear. So again, that is my third and final one. Only looking when you have money. You should always be looking, in my opinion. Right. So let's go to this future land as we talked about in video number 1. This question is going to go for all 3 of us. And we're going to go to you first, Dion. If you each switched portfolios, what would your next move be? I think that's what it says.
So if I switched with Mark, my first move would be a house hack. Right. The same thing if I switched with Millennial Mike, I'd be on his next house hack. It'd be the first thing that I do. I've done it 3 times now. And that's one of the massive contributions to me being able to retire early. If I switched with you, Mike, a house hack wouldn't be my first move. Right. So the house hack for Millennial Mike working on financial freedom, for Mark working on financial freedom, house hack will contribute to that. I don't think house hacking has as much impact once you've reached financial freedom and you have that multiplier of it. I know some of the basics of your portfolio. One of the things I think you do really good, Zuber, is you don't go, hey, here's everything I have because it's so big, it's so unattainable, and the numbers are this. It's get to 4 and then decide if you want 4 or 10 or go back to 0, right? That's attainable. Mm-hmm. Man, if I had your portfolio, what would be the first thing I do? I've had time to think about this too. if I switched portfolios with you, the first thing I would do is not have your portfolio.
Yeah. I figured that was coming. Yeah. Very cool.
I would get out of California.
Yep.
I would want about a 30 to 40% levered position in the new portfolio. So it would be
Okay.
offloading everything and acquiring in a new, probably where I know the market. I would basically reproduce my portfolio on a bigger scale,
Yeah.
just because I would have the money to play with, which is always a fun thing to think about, but isn't my goal. I would have to think, because I'm always after the same thing. I want the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units.
Yeah.
And
I
I would
like it.
lose the property management.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you have no idea how much I spend on that each month, each year. It's a large number. It's a large number. All right, Mark, this was your question. Giving you a little time to think about it. Any thoughts on what you would do?
I would be super happy to have either one of your portfolios. If I did have Zuber's portfolio, I definitely would probably kind of do what Coach Carson says and kind of maybe prune the tree and kind of evaluate which properties are performing well and which are not, and maybe either sell them off 1031, but kind of consolidate the portfolio. I mean, I think at first I would have been like, this is the best side. This is what I wanted. This was the goal. But then now on this journey, I realized like I kind of like Dion, the right amount of properties, the right amount of cash flow, or the most amount of cash flow. And so I would consolidate, prune the tree, and I would maybe look for areas that I plan to be traveling, like in the Carolinas and those areas. And same thing like Dion, kind of maybe get some sort of house hack in those markets to where when I'm not in that area, there's someone else who's still paying or bringing in cash flow for that property. And that's what I would do. And if I did have Dion's portfolio, I mean, I think that's the ideal
Yeah.
portfolio size. Seems pretty hands off, least amount of work. So that's kind of the goal for me now where I'm at.
I think that's really wise. I think, when looking at my portfolio, I would tell you guys definitely trim, definitely 1031 into the markets you want to be in. I think that makes perfect sense. Um, but if I were to switch portfolios really with either of you, um, this, I don't know, the reality is I would probably still be working, right? Let's just say we enjoy life, and my monthly nut is probably bigger than it should be, right? So I would probably still be working. I'd have a commission-based job. I'd be traveling all over God's green there trying to sell software. So that's the first reality. Um, Second, I would probably visit each location because I don't know each location and really figure out, can I double or triple down? One thing that I've figured out in my portfolio is, for me, my opinion only, doesn't make sense to change markets. If you have a market that's working, you have intellectual capital, you have relationships, just take your unfair advantage of that market, right? As your network grows, you're going to get better and better opportunities brought to you just because you become a known quantity. So I don't know that I would exit either market. I would probably visit each market for a while and meet the people and see. Because one thing that's really funny, I talk about, in Mark, you brought it up earlier, right? I built a portfolio in a market where I could drive to. In reality, now that I've done it, that's a 2.5 hour, that's a 5 hour day just to see one property. I can get to a lot of places in 5 hours on an airplane. So I don't know now, 25 years later, if I would be so hard and fast. But I do not believe, me personally, building portfolios in 3 markets. I just don't think you get scale. I don't think you have lessons learned. I think the opportunity to get got increases. So I guess that's it's kind of my off the cuff answer to that unusual question. Yeah. Mark, where can people find you?
Financial Firefighter on YouTube, X, Instagram. Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm everywhere.
There you go. Keep it up. Keep it up. Dion, how about you?
You can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom, where I do things like think of polls where I think a lot of people would rather have your portfolio. I don't think a lot of people would want to build your portfolio.
Oh, I agree with that 1,000%. Yeah, now that you're here, sure. You wouldn't want to go through. No, I agree with that. I think Mark said it. I've said it on other podcasts. Dion has the perfect portfolio. If I had to build it all over again, it would be singles or doubles. It'd all be residential, younger stuff, side by side. And yeah, I would probably need 40-ish, but I don't need 200. So
I think
yeah.
I think it would take me 5 years of investing to double what my cash flow is now, if I wanted to. So it there is the right amount of cash flow from the least amount of units out there for everybody.
I love
Uh,
that.
and I think it's an easier goal to start working towards instead of, why watch this YouTube where this guy has 2,000 units and if I don't hit that, I'm a failure. Like that's the
Yeah.
mentality I hear from people often that they just have to go bigger. I don't want bigger.
No, no, again, the lazy landlord that we talked about in episode 1 is what I think most people should shoot for. So guys, you are amazing. Dion, thank you for stepping in. Mark, thank you for being a part of this. Jason did confirm that he will be on for next Sunday. So Jason had a family emergency. He couldn't make this call, but Jason will be a part of the school community next week. Guys, take care. Have fun. Later.
Ciao.